Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible. Okay, so before I start, let me introduce myself. I'm Vani Kari, biology educator at an academy. I'm an engineer with bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology and a PhD degree. Also a founder of a startup where I grow microgreens by vertical farming technology. So join with us in Telegram for homework and class notes. You can join the channel Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10 biology and the Telegram. So this is class 9 and 10 biology you can search. Okay. And the Telegram channel An Academy ICSE and ISC both. So this link you will find in the description box. So go to the description box and click on the link to get updated about the classes. So yes, we also conduct special classes which are free classes on An Academy platform, so you can learn from your favorite educator for free. Okay, so engage with educators via poll. So we will be conducting a poll there. Okay, and basically once the quiz is done, okay, so we can share the leaderboard so that you can know your rank and you can compete with your friends. Okay, so clear your doubts in the live special class. So there is a separate question tab where you can type in your question, and you have an option to attach an image and send it to the educator during a live session. So they'll be getting a notification and will be clearing your doubt. Okay, so An Academy subscription features, so you can learn live from the comfort of your home, unlimited access to all the courses, like different educators will come up with their own course. Okay, so you will have access to all the courses once you take the subscription. Then top educators of India are going to take the class in one platform, that is An Academy platform. Then there is regular doubt clearing session. So this is about after about every 3 sessions, the fourth session will be your doubt clearing session. Okay, so whatever doubts you have related to the topics that are previously covered, so you can clear your doubt in this particular fourth session, that is the doubt clearing session. Okay, then complete syllabus will be covered, mentorship and guidance is given, the study material is given, practice test, live test series are given, and batch courses. So once you take the subscription, you will have access to batch courses as well. Okay, so that means basically you can, depending on your preference, you can go to Hindi batch or maybe a English batch. So this is completely your choice. So basically you have an option to select them. So along with that, there is daily practice section, weekly mock test series, live quizzes, daily MCQ and subjective test series also are there. Okay, now An Academy plus subscription pricing. So let's have a look at this. Now for class 9, so you can just try with 6 months, like how exactly this works. So if you feel comfortable, so you can go for further also, or those who have already taken special classes and you feel that you are understanding all these concept from different educators, so you can also go with the 12 months of subscription, or maybe including class, and so you can go with the 24 months of subscription. So for 12 months it is usually it is around 15k, but when you apply a code Vani YT, so this is gonna get reduced to somewhere around 13.5k. okay, so you can use this code Vani YT to get 10% discount on the subscription. All right, so let's get started with the flower. All right, so any idea what exactly is the flower? So whether this one is modified root or whether this is modified shoot, any idea you guys have about the flower? Just a second. Yeah. Okay, so flower, when we mention, so this is floral primordium is a tissue on the stem. So that means there is a shoot. Okay, so there is a shoot on to the shoot. So this shoot is the one that is getting modified. So there is a particular tissue over here which is the one that is giving rise to. So you can see here this one is actually a stem, the shoot system, and at the tip you can see that so tissue on the stem that develops into a flower. So there is a particular tissue which is forming a flower. Okay, so this is forming a flower. So that means the stem itself or a shoot itself, so there is a tissue which is modified, or we can say basically a particular tissue which is mainly responsible for giving rise to a flower itself. So that is being produced. So now cluster of floral bud form on the shoot, so in species, so that we call as the inflorescence. So what exactly is that? So now let's say there is this part. Okay, 1 second, so I'll just explain you this. Yeah, so let's say there is this floral shoot, we can say. Okay, and here we can find a flower. So there is a flower. So inflorescence I'm explaining. Okay, so in inflorescence, what do you see actually? So inflorescence is basically a group of flower. Okay, so in that case you can see a flower at the tip over here. Okay, so you can see a flower. So this flower is actually it is a younger flower. So you can find many flowers as such. So let's not draw the flower completely this thing. 1 second, so I'll just show you this. Okay, so now arising from here you can find many flowers. Okay, so this is many flowers you can find. The ones which are at the below, so these are older flowers. Okay, so the ones that you find below over here, so these are gonna be older flowers. So you can find a bunch of flowers there. Okay, so these are actually older flowers, but as you go on top, so you can find a younger flower there. Okay, so you can find a younger flower. So here you can find younger, so this is some more younger, and here you can find a younger. Okay, so now flower, when we mention, so bunch of flowers, so you can see with this definition, so cluster of floral bud. So you can see there are clusters of floral buds. So these floral buds, when we mention, so here you can find the older flower. Okay, so this one is older flower, whereas this one is actually a younger flower. Okay, so basically you can find many different types of arrangement also. So this is the arrangement that you can see with respect to the flower. So you can find many floral buds which are arranged onto the shoot, so that we call as the inflorescence. Okay, now in flower, when we mention, so there is a male reproductive part, so there is a female reproductive part. Okay, so what exactly is the importance of this flower being having reproductive part? So there are different some flowers are having only the male reproductive part, so some flowers are having only the female reproductive part. So let's see this. I'll just explain you this. So now some flowers you see. Okay, so in flower, so you can find the flower having only the male reproductive part. Okay, so only male reproductive part is there. Okay, so you can see only male reproductive part there. So in that case, that kind of a flower we can mention as staminate flower. Okay, so we can just call it as what? So we can just call it as staminate flower. Okay, so that means only the stamen is present. Okay, so this one is a staminate flower. So in certain cases, so you can see that the flower is there. Okay, and this flower is having only the female reproductive part. Okay, so let's see this one. So now there is this flower. Okay, so I'll just write here. So only female reproductive part is present. Okay, so with respect to that, we can say that this one is pistillate flower. Okay, so this is a pistillate flower. So now based on which is present and which is not present, if all the four whorls are present, so we say that it is a complete flower. Okay, or we can also say that it is a perfect flower. or otherwise we say that this is an incomplete flower if any one part is missing. Okay, so if only if one part is also missing, so that we call as an incomplete one. So you can see this one now. Now this is for male reproductive part, so let me just change the color. So you can see different flowers. Okay, so there is stigma style ovary as usual, this is there, which is placed onto this thalamus. Okay, and then you can see there are petals over here, so this is a petal. All right, so you can find there one is a petal now. Okay, so here in this case, so that is only the stamen you can find. So what is that stamen now? So here you can find only this plant having the anther and the filament, but not the stigma style and the ovary. So you can find anther and filament. Okay, so everywhere here you can find anther as well as the filament there. So this is basically anther and filament now. Okay, so this is also the one second, let me just complete this. So this is now anther and filament. So that means it is having only the male reproductive part. So in other case, only female reproductive part is there, so that we call as a pistillate flower. So in that case we can say that, so let's draw one flower now. So as usual the receptacle is present, so you can see a flower then. Okay, so this is now a flower. So this particular flower when we mention, so this is a stalk. Okay, so this is a stalk. So now this particular flower when we mention, so this is having only the female reproductive part. So which is that female reproductive part? So it is basically a stigma style and ovary that you can find in here. Okay, so this is stigma style ovary which is placed onto this thalamus, and here you can find the arrangement of ovules. Okay, so inside this you can find the arrangement of ovules. Okay, so now based on this, just a second. Yeah, all right, so let's see this one now. Okay, so the male reproductive part is androecium and the female reproductive part is gynoecium, so that may develop. All right, so let's see this. The flowers are the reproductive unit of a plant. So why is there a requirement of plant? I mean, why is there a requirement, not plant, the flower? Okay, so why exactly this is required? Because the flower is the one which is later on with after fertilization, so this is the one which is going to form a fruit. So this is the one that is going to form a seed, so that is a part of a flower. Okay, so that means continuity of the generation, so that is plant generation, so it will continue, and that's the reason the reproductive organ is required. So which is that reproductive organ? So now this part what you see, so the flower, so this one is a reproductive organ. Okay, so this we call as a reproductive organ. All right, any doubt till here? So now flowers are the reproductive unit of the plant. Okay, and you can see that the flower is having 4 types of whorls. Okay, so there are 4 types of whorl that you can find. So calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Okay, so you can find there is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So these are the 4 whorls that we can find in a plant body. Okay, so that is specifically flower. So flower is where you can find calyx. Okay, so calyx is what? So this is basically group of sepals. So this is all this side what I'm writing, so this is for group of. Okay, so in that case the sepal collectively is called as a calyx, and corolla when we mention the petal is collectively called as a corolla. Okay, and here you can see there is a androecium. So be the androecium only one is there or many are there? So collective term anyway for stamen we can use the term androecium. Okay, so even if it is one, okay, so let's say that only one particular stamen is there, so in that case also we can call it as androecium. When they are in group, so that is also androecium. So here we can say For a group of sepal, for a group of petals, so we can say calyx as well as a corolla. Okay, so that is respectively. Then same way gynoecium you can see. So gynoecium when we mention, so this is carpel or a pistil. Okay, so this is carpel or a pistil. So these are the four whorl arrangement that you can see in a flower. Okay, so now you can see with respect to this here, just a second. Alright, I am audible, right? Yeah, I hope so. Okay, yes. Okay, so let's see this. Okay, so now these are the four whorls. Now when we mention about the outermost one, so which is that outermost one? So you see sepal here, right? So sepal is the outermost whorl. Okay, so sepal is actually the outermost whorl, so that means we can just write it here as sepal or basically a calyx. Okay, so this is the outermost whorl that you can find in a flower. And same way, now when we mention about the petal, so this is the next whorl that you can find. So if we are writing it in the order, like from outermost to innermost, so outermost is this one. So basically I'll just write here. So outermost whorl is basically sepal. Okay, so next comes, so next is what? The next is actually the petal. Okay, so this is petal. And next to that, okay, so what is next? So next to that you can find a stamen, so which is again made of the anther and the filament, and then the innermost whorl. Okay, so this one is the innermost whorl. So innermost whorl when we mention, so this is the carpel or a pistil. Okay, so or we can write it as a gynoecium also. So carpel, pistil, then this can be gynoecium. Okay, so this one is gynoecium. And here sepal when we mention, so this can be calyx. Okay, so this is a calyx, this one is corolla. Okay, and this one is androecium. Okay, so these are the collective terms that you can use for a flower. Okay, so now carpel or the pistil is the innermost one. So when the flower is still a bud stage, okay, so that is when it has not bloomed yet. So in that case, the outermost covering you can find is this green part. Okay, so what is that green part? So that is the sepal. So collectively we can call it as a calyx. So next comes the petal, then comes the stamen, and then there is a carpel or a pistil. So let's see this. Here they have mentioned, just a second. Yeah, so here it is mentioned, so there is a male gametophyte. Okay, so male gametophyte is mentioned, and you can see that the female gametophyte. So what is that male gametophyte? So pollen grain is the male gametophyte. Female gametophyte is basically stigma, style and ovary. Having inside the ovary you can find the ovule, and inside the ovule you can find this thing, what is, one second, embryo sac. Okay, and inside that embryo sac you will find the egg. So now let's see male gametophyte. Okay, so let's see what is male gametophyte now. Okay, so male gametophyte is what? Male gametophyte is actually a pollen grain. Okay, so this is a pollen grain is actually the male gametophyte. So now in this pollen grain structure, like just for your understanding, I'll just show you this. One second. Yeah. Okay, so now let's say this is a pollen grain. Okay, so there is a pollen grain. Okay, so suspended in this pollen grain you can find, so this is a structure of a pollen grain that I'm drawing. So you can find one spindle shaped cell, okay, which will have two male gametes. Okay, and then there is one vegetative cell. So this one is actually called as a generative cell. Okay, so this is a generative cell. and this one is basically a vegetative cell. So you can find two types of cell there itself in the pollen grain. So this one is a vegetative cell. So now you know there is the outermost layer of protection will also be there. Okay, so now pollen grain, when we mention, so this is having a protective covering outside. Okay, so this one is a protective covering if we say. Okay, so certain spaces you can see here, this is the space where you do not find this outer covering. Okay, so this is now a outer covering that you can find with respect to the pollen grain. Okay, and here you do not see any of the exine, so that is outer covering. So that means now you know as it reaches this particular stigma. Okay, so now here is this particular, okay, 1 second, so this is stigma. Okay, let's imagine this part is stigma. Okay, so this one is stigma. So what exactly happens? So whenever the compatible, so that is the one which is belonging to, so compatible pollen grain is coming, or the pollen grain which is responsible for the continuity of generation, that means it is of the same species, then only, so after the stigma and the pollen grain interact. Okay, so there is an interaction, continuous interaction that occurs between the stigma and the pollen grain. So based on that, once the stigma understand that this particular pollen grain is basically belonging to same species, so that is when it will lead to germination. So pollen tube formation we can see, and for pollen tube formation, so basically what is required? So required things are the sugar, like you know, sugar will be released, then certain water, so this is released by the stigma, so that is for the germination of this pollen tube, so pollen grain. So now here you can see that, 1 second, yeah. So now you can see that this particular pollen grain which is this, so this will start to germinate, and after that you can see here two male nuclei, right? So those two male nuclei are going to take entry into this particular pollen tube. So here you can see this structure. So this is now, you know, this one is actually a generative cell. So this we call as a male gametophyte. Okay, so this is a male gametophyte. So pollen tube formation you can see as soon as the stigma interacts with the pollen grain. Okay, so germination of pollen grain will occur, so that means pollen tube formation you can see, and whatever nucleus was here, so those two nuclei are entering this pollen tube. So now in case of a female gametophyte, so let me just draw it and explain it to you. So that is about the female gametophyte. Okay, so now in case of female gametophyte, so that is nothing but the embryo sac. Okay, so embryo sac which you can find inside the ovule. So ovary is there. Okay, so inside ovary what do you find? So you see a ovule. Okay, and inside ovule what do you see? So there is a embryo sac. Okay, so you can find a embryo sac. So embryo sac is the female gametophyte. So let's draw the embryo sac now. So this is now a embryo sac. So this is now a female gametophyte which will have a female gamete. So there is a egg cell. Okay, so this one is a egg cell. So where you can find egg nucleus. Okay, and other than that you can also find two other cells there. So that is associated with the function. So they are going to perform any function. So there you can see a synergid cell as well. So now you know this is egg. Okay, and these two are actually synergid. So these are synergid cell. So both of them together we call it as a egg apparatus. Okay, so this is called as a egg apparatus. Okay, so now on the center what you can find, so this whole thing is female gametophyte. So female gametophyte will have a female gamete. So in the center you can find two of the polar nuclei, and on top you can find the antipodal cell. So this is now a antipodal cell that you can find. So again this is also having its own nucleus. So now this one is a antipodal cell. Now when the fertilization has to occur, so this is the structure that you see. So I'll just show you this. Yeah, so you see this green tube running down here. So this is the blue tube. Now I made it blue. So this one is actually the tube. So what is this tube? It is the pollen tube that is running down, that is through the style, okay, and it is entering where? So this is entering this one, I mean the ovule, basically embryo sac, where it can undergo fertilization. So here you can see there is a combination, and then male and the female gamete will fuse, and that is how the fertilization will occur and zygote formation. So now this one is thalamus. So you can see a sepal. Female gametophyte is basically inside this ovule. You can find the embryo sac. So that can be female gametophyte. So now this is a placenta. So arranged at the placenta, you can see that there are ovules attached. Okay, so ovule is attached. Just a second. So ovule is attached here. So this we call as a female gametophyte. Sorry, so placenta and then a ovule. Okay, so where exactly do you find a female gametophyte? So that is inside the ovule you find embryo sac, right? So that itself is a female gametophyte. So rest of the parts, I hope you know this. So this one is petal, then ovule is there, the pollen tube, so the blue one which I have made now, so that is the pollen tube. Then you can find these anthers over here. Okay, so these are anthers, so stigma, style and ovary is present. Okay. Alright, so types of flowers. So let's have a look at the types of flowers. So there is a bisexual flower which is having both androecium and gynoecium, and that's the reason we call this as a bisexual flower. Okay, so this is now a bisexual flower. So just a second. Thank you. The other one, okay, so there is bisexual flower. So in that case you can find both androecium and gynoecium. In the other one, so either the unisexual flower, when we mention, so either this can be pistillate flower. Okay, so that means only the female reproductive part is there, or it can be staminate flower. So that means only the male reproductive part might be there. So now depending on which is present, so either this can be pistillate, that means female reproductive part is present. And this type of flower we cannot say this is a perfect flower. So this flower is actually a imperfect flower. Why? Because so one of the parts, so if any one part is missing in a flower, so that is incomplete flower. And here in this case mainly the reproductive part itself is missing, so it is a imperfect flower, or we can also call it as a incomplete flower. So here it is a bisexual one, so that means we can call this as a complete flower, or this can also be called as a perfect flower. Okay, so perfect flower, complete flower, or bisexual, so both the organs are there, so both the sex organ or both male reproductive and female reproductive are there, so that we can call as a complete or a perfect. So here in this case you can see, okay, so since here it is only pistillate, that means only female, and here it is only male, so that is either the male is not there or the female is not there. So in that case we can call it as imperfect or an incomplete flower. So this one we saw already. So the first whorl, or let's see, so flower is a specialized shoot where the leaves are modified into floral structure. Now the stalk of the flower, so let's see this part. Okay, so I'll just draw it and explain. So now there is a thalamus. Okay, so placed onto this thalamus you can find there is a stalk. Okay, so this one is now a stalk. Alright, so this stalk can also be called as what? So this stalk can also be called as a pedicel. So there is a pedicel. Okay, and this is actually the thalamus. Okay, so this part what you see now, so this one is thalamus, or thalamus can also be called as a receptacle. So we can also call it as a receptacle. Okay, so this is the one. Now arranged onto this base, so this is like a base, like whenever you are building a home, So you just put a basement, like a stronger support is provided to the home. So same way this one, thalamus or receptacle is like a base which is going to hold all the four whorls. So which are those four whorls? So calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So let's draw the calyx now. So for understanding, so you can just see that this one is now a calyx, or we can also call it as a sepal. Okay, so now this part is actually the sepal part, or collective term is basically a calyx. Okay, so now same way, onto this, placed onto this itself, again you can find there are the petals. Okay, so here which are actually placed onto the water, so these are placed onto this thalamus itself. Okay, so now one more we can draw in this. Okay, so now here we can just show, but throughout it is actually having a the petal, or the sepal when we mention. So these are placed onto the thalamus itself. So now arising from this, you can see the next word is the androecium. Okay, so you can find the androecium there. Okay, so now androecium is having anther and filament. Okay, so there you can find anther and the filament there. Okay, so any tip, like you can draw the anther and filament anyway. So usually it's better if you show the bilobe structure. Okay, so now this is anther and the filament. Then we need to show the stigma, style and ovary. So everything, okay, so each and everything is placed where? So each and everything is basically placed onto this thalamus itself. Okay, so this is placed onto the thalamus itself, and here you can find a placenta, and then inside that you can find a ovule. So there is a attached to the placenta, you can see there are many ovules which are arranged. All right, so is this clear? Any doubt in this? So the floral parts are born on a thalamus, that is in four whorls. So first whorl is green sepal, so which is the outermost one. So second whorl is basically a corolla, which is brightly colored. So what is the reason for bright coloration? Okay, so now flowers, when we mention, so flowers are actually you can find the flowers having a bright colored structure. Okay, so bright colored petal. Okay, so you can find bright colored petal there. Then also you can find the nectar production you can find. Okay, so then you can find that the flowers are gonna be larger and showy type of flowers you can find. Okay, so larger and showy flowers, bright color petal, nectar. Okay, and also they produce a scent. So all these functions are happening, so that is to attract the pollinators. Okay, so this is to attract pollinating agents. Okay, so pollinating agents can be attracted. So to produce all of this, large amount of ATP is spent. Okay, so large amount of ATP is spent by whom? So that is by the flower itself. Okay, so that is to produce all the required things. So large amount of ATP is used up. So third whorl is basically a stamen, or which we can also call as a androecium. So each stamen consists of a thread-like filament, and there you can find a bilobed anther. So now this one, let's see. Okay, I'll explain it to you here. Now what I'm drawing is stamen. Okay, so this one is a stamen. So in stamen, what do you see? So there is an anther. Okay, so this one, let's say this is a filament now. Okay, so this part is actually the filament part. All right, one second. Yeah, so this is now a filament. So let's fill it completely. So this is now a filament, and attached to the filament you can find this bilobe structure. Okay, so there you can find this bilobe structure, so which we call as a anther. So this one is anther, and the anther is bilobed. So this one is bilobed, and this one is what? So this is a filament. Okay, and here there are chambers. Okay, so there are chambers that you can find inside this particular anther. So let's say here is one chamber, here is one, then as such here you can find chambers when you take a cross section. So or let's say like this. So I'll just show you this. One second. So now you know there is this anther. Okay, so this one is actually the anther part. So anther, when we take a cross section, so let's say we are going to take a transverse section, not a cross section. So let's say we are going to take a transverse section here. So now you know you can see the arrangement somewhat like this. So this is, you know, after a transverse section. So this is after the transverse section of anther. Okay, so this is of a anther. So what do you observe there? So you can observe the arrangement of pole and grain. So now you know there you can find 4 of the chambers as such. So there is, you know, this is the 4 of the chambers which you find. Okay, and one second, I'll just erase this part. Okay, all right. So now you know same way you can find a compartment here as well. Along with that, so you can find the compartment here as well. So now you know here the pollen grains are produced and those pollen grains will be there. So these are the pollen grains. Okay, so this is after the transverse section. So you can find the pollen grain. So these pollen grains are the ones which will get dehisced. Okay, so that means the pollen grains are released from this part of a flower. So that is from the anther itself. So now here this is all pollen grain. So completely when you take a cross section, so you can see the pollen grain arrangement and the pollen grains are going to be released to the surrounding atmosphere. So here you know the fourth pearl is basically pistil carpel, okay, or we can also call it as a gynoecium, and it is having a stigma, style and a ovary. So let's see this one, the complete flower, okay, or incomplete flower. So complete can also be called as a perfect flower, in which it is having all the 4 whorls. Okay, so if all the 4 whorls are present, yeah, so this one. Okay, so all 4 whorls are present here. Okay, so that means the flower is actually a complete flower, or we can also call it as a perfect flower. Here in the other case you can see that if one or so 2 sets, or let's say one or more in general, so let's not be specific here. So certain cases, no, the you know, the petal and the sepal is fused. Okay, so in that case we cannot say that the 2 parts are there. All right, so you cannot differentiate between them. So in that case also we can see that if one or more sets of the floral structures are missing, so in that case we call it as a incomplete or a imperfect one. Okay, so incomplete flower or imperfect flower. So where is the cursor? Yeah, so here it is. So this can be incomplete or a imperfect. So if one is missing, so this is for if, okay, 1 second. Okay, so now essential and non-essential. So what is the meaning of this one? So essential parts we mention and non-essential parts we mention. Okay, so what is that essential part and which is that non-essential part? So why do we say that this is essential and this is not essential? So in that case, essential for what? Essential for reproduction to occur. Okay, so what all parts are required? So all those parts come under the essential part. So what is required for reproduction? So for reproduction it is always the male and the female. Okay, so male female reproductive system, or you know, the male and the female reproductive parts are required. So that is in case of the essential one. Now when we mention about non-essential, so these are, 1 second, my eyes, no, today some problem is there. 1 second. So there was actually, it was burning in the morning. Okay, so now non-essential. So non-essential, when we mention, so these are not required. Okay, so these are not required for what? Not required for protection, or sorry, not protection, reproduction. Okay, so these are not required for reproduction, but yes, they have a function of protection. Okay, so they are not required for reproduction, but it's not that they are completely waste. So they are essential, so that is for the protection, so but have a role in, so these have a role in protection. Okay, so this is with respect to protection. Okay, so is this clear? Why do we say that the essential one and non-essential? So essential we say because this is required for reproduction to occur. So now when we mention non-essential, so this is not required for reproduction, but yes, this is not completely waste, so this is having a role in a protection. Okay, so that means essential or reproductive or non-essential, so that is non-reproductive parts of a flower. So now the essential parts of a flowers that are directly concerned with the reproduction, these parts consist of stamen, so that is male part, and then a carpel, so that is female part. So there is male part and then there is female part. Now non-essentials, that is accessory parts, are simply the helping parts which either protect the reproductive parts of the flower or make the flower attractive. So flowers are made attractive for pollination. So here non-essential we can mention, so they are not having a role with respect to reproduction, but they are having a role with respect to one second. Yeah, so but they have a role with respect to the protection. Okay, so now these parts include the sepals and petals. So in some cases the petals and sepals are undifferentiated, so you can find undifferentiated sepal and a petal there, and that we call as a perianth. So there is a perianth. So when the perianth is non-green, so that we can call as a petaloid. So you can see this one. Okay, so here you cannot make a difference. Okay, so now this one is shown as a petal and this is shown as a sepal. Okay, so here with respect to this diagram, so you cannot understand whether here it is labeled as sepal, right? So these are actually sepals. So what you might think, so by looking at the diagram, so you can, I mean picture, so you can understand this looks like a petal, but this is not the petal. So here you can find these petals. Okay, and so now this part is a sepal, so that means the sepals which are here, so let me just write here, so the sepals which are here, so sepals are actually non-green. Okay, so sepals are non-green, so that we can call as a petaloid. Okay, so this is a petaloid. If it is green, so let's say if the sepal is green, okay, so let's see this, if the sepal is green, so in that case we can call it as a sepaloid perianth. Okay, so this one is sepaloid perianth. So is this clear? Any doubt in this? So floral tube fused with the ovaries mentioned, so dried perianth, capsule developing fruit, the bract, so you can see this is now a bract, so at the base of the floral bud, because this one is the floral bud, so at the base of the floral bud you find this leaf like structure. So this leaf like structure is actually the bract. Okay, so now this you can find usually at the base of this particular flower. So let's see this here. Okay, so in this case what do you see? So now this is a sepaloid perianth or a sepaloid tepal. So that means here you can find this is somewhat greenish in color. So green sepal is there. Okay, and you cannot distinguish between whether this is a petal or a sepal. So in that case you can call it as a sepaloid perianth. Okay, so this is basically sepaloid perianth. Alright, any doubt till here? Bract we will see now. Okay, So now when we mention about a bract, so when a flower arises, so you can see this is a bougainvillea. Okay, so this one is actually a bougainvillea. Okay, so this is a bougainvillea. So when you observe a bougainvillea, so these petals which you see here, so these are the leaves actually. Okay, so now this is a flower. So let me just change the color. You see this, right? So only this is flower here. Okay, so this one is flower. All right, so rest of the things what you see, so now you know this one you can find in pink color. Okay, so this leaf which is there, so this leaf you can find in purple color, you can find it in pink color. Okay, so orange color you can find it, so somewhat reddish color you can find it. Okay, so white color you can find, yellow color you can find, so different colors are there. Okay, so now you know this is not restricted to this only, so I mean you know it is not restricted to only green color. So this is actually a leaf itself, which does not look like a leaf, because you know it is having a different color, which is you know, and that's the reason. So and it is present at the base of the flower, and that's the reason we call it as a bract. So when the flower arises in the axil of a leaf like structure, so this structure is known as a bract, so that we call as a bract. Bract may be green, so if it is green like ordinary leaves, or at times this can be colored also. So this is a tiny flower. So down what you find, so that is completely you know it is so that we can see completely it is actually a leaf itself with the different color. Okay, because of the pigmentation. So now bougainvillea is easily mistaken for petal. The actual flower in this case is small, somewhat cylindrical, and attached to the inner side of the bract. So this is basically you know we think that this whole of a flower is a flower. Okay, but that is not the flower, only the smaller one is the flower, so rest of them is all leaf. So here also you can see this. Okay, a modified one, that is you know a leaf you can find. So this is now a flower. Okay, so this part is flower. All right, and this one is actually a leaf, so that means a colorful leaf is present. So now this we can mention as a bract. Okay, so this can be mentioned as a bract. Why is it bract? Because at the base of a flower you can find, so here also, so at the base of a flower when you see a leaf structure, it need not be green always, so it can have a different color. So now same way, now flower is here, so at the base you can find a leaf like structure, so this we can call as a bract. Okay, so same way let's have a look at the nectary. So what exactly is nectary? Is this clear about the bract? Any doubt? No doubt? Okay. All right. Okay, so now nectaries when we mention, so most flowers produce a sweet fragrant liquid, so that is called as a nectar. Okay, so there is a formation of a nectar. So you might have seen the usually the insects, so they'll jump from one flower to other flower. Okay, so that is to collect a nectar. So these insects keep on going from one flower to the other. So now groups of nectar secreting cells, so that we call as nectaries. Okay, so it is nectaries is nothing but group of cells. Okay, so this is a group of cells which are actually responsible for production of nectaries, and are situated at the base of the pistil or at the base of the petal. So now you know this is the pistil, so there is stigma, style, and then ovary. So at the base of the pistil, so let's see, this is the one. Okay, And here, you know, at the base of the pistil you can find these type of structures. Okay, so these are nectaries, or here you can clearly see that the nectar attracts insects like honeybees for cross pollination. So in some cases nectaries are prominent, so you can clearly see them. Now this part is a nectary. Okay, that is nectar producing cell. So here more amount of nectar production will occur, so that is in this tube. Then the insect is going to put the sting and it is going to take up the nectar. Okay, so in some cases nectaries are very prominent, so that is in you can see here nasturtium. Okay, so nasturtium when we mention, so this is basically an example. So I'll just show you one more flower. Okay, so now you can see floral versus extra floral nectaries in plant. Okay, so you can see this is now a leaf. Okay, so this is extra floral. Now this is a floral one. So this one is actually the ovary here. Okay, so this is ovary, and then you can see a style. So this is a style, and you can see this is the base now. Okay, so at the base what do you find? So there are nectaries. Okay, so that is base of the ovary, you can find a nectaries, and these nectaries are the ones which are responsible for the nectar production. Just a second. Yeah, so at the base of this particular ovary, like you know the carpel, so you can find there is a nectar production. Okay, so now you know whenever the insect comes, they are going to put their sting, so that is at this part, and then they'll collect the nectar from here. So you can see here this is extra floral. So now we know this is not associated with the flower, so you can clearly see that this is a leaf. Okay, so this is extra floral nectary. So it need not be always with the flower only, but yes, it has to be with the flower. And other than that, certain plants can also produce a nectary. So you can see these are the nectar producing cells here. Okay, which are producing the nectar. So nectar production will occur because of the group of cells. And why exactly there is a requirement of this one? So that is mainly to attract. So why exactly nectar is produced? So this is to attract the insect. Okay, so this is to attract the insect so that the pollination occurs. Okay, so in order, so the benefit, like you know, basically the plant is taking a benefit of a insect, so for the pollination by producing different attractive things. Okay, so for production of ATP, again the plant has to spend a lot of amount of, like you know, lot amount of energy. So energy, that is ATP, is required. So whenever bright colored flower, the large flower or showy flowers with a scent formation, like you know, a good smell flower, so if that is there and nectar is there, so basically the insects are going to get attracted. So in order to make it insect attractive, so large amount of ATP is used by the plant. So that is, you know, for production of all these necessary things. So in that case the pollination can be done. Okay, so that's the reason. So the plant is going to put a lot of efforts for the pollination to occur. Okay, all right, so any doubt till here? Okay, so perianth is a condition in which the options are calyx and corolla are not distinct. Okay, calyx is present but corolla is absent. Okay, corolla is present but calyx is absent. Calyx and corolla are not present. So which is the correct one? Any of you have any idea? Perianth. So when do we say that this is a perianth? So perianth is a condition in which the calyx and corolla are not distinct. So you can just type in the answer here. So this is, you know, it is calyx and corolla are not distinct. Okay, so perianth is a condition in which the calyx and corolla, we cannot differentiate between them. So now this is the one question. typical flower has 4 different kinds of whorls. Okay, so that is calyx, corolla, then androecium, gynoecium is in. So arranged on an end of a stalk, or the pedicel called as. So what is that called? So peduncle, thalamus, receptacle. Then you can see both B and C. So the answer is both B and C. So that means it is thalamus as well as a receptacle. So we can, in your book they have, I think only they have mentioned the thalamus, Selena textbook. Okay, but you can also go with the receptacle. So another term for thalamus can be the receptacle then. Okay, now proximal end of the filament of stamen is attached to. So what is that proximal end? So proximal end of the filament is attached to the thalamus itself. Okay, hi Samriddhi, good evening. So proximal end of the thalamus when we mention, so this is attached to the thalamus itself. So let's say now this is a thalamus, okay, and here is this stalk. So this is the stalk now. And now when we mention about a stamen, okay, so let's say stamen is it. So now this is anther, okay, so anther, and this is a filament. Okay, so in this case now we are keeping the thalamus as the reference. Okay, so this is the thalamus as the reference point. So to thalamus, which is nearer, is the anther near or the filament near to thalamus? Now this is the thalamus. For thalamus, you can see that the filament is nearer or the anther is nearer. So here it is, the filament is actually nearer. Okay, and that's the reason we call that this is the proximal end of the filament is attached to what? It is attached to the anther by keeping the thalamus as the reference. Now this one is at the proximal end. Okay, and the other one, so this is now anther, and this one we can see this is placed at the distal end. Okay, so this is distal end of the stamen is this. Okay, all right, so before I end the session, just a second. Yeah, so introducing community, so never miss on any update from your favorite educator. So get session notes and practice material, share your feedback directly with the educator via poll. Okay, and check out the link to the educator community below. Okay, so one more thing, 1 second. Yeah, so I'll just say it here. So now there are batches. So there is guardians batch. Okay, so we just started like 4th of May, so you can have access to these batches once you take the subscription. So this started on 4th of May. So there is one more batch, so that is Avengers batch, which is going to start from 11th of May. So this is about the Avengers batch. Here the mode of delivery is English, and here the mode of delivery is English. Okay, so you can go for any of these batches once you take the subscription, so you will have access to all the batches. Okay, so if you are planning to take the subscription, so you can use my code VANIYT. So this is my code. So with this code you will be getting 10% discount on the subscription. So this is Bugs Bounty. Okay, opportunity for all learners to report any inappropriate content in the video. So be the first one to report a particular issue to claim your prize. Report any inappropriate content using the form in the description. So how you can watch my special class? All you need to do is download the Unacademy Learner app. Open the app and click on Get Started. Then enter your mobile number and OTP. So sign up using your email ID. Okay, so once you do that, so you can select the class 6 to 12. Then you can select the category ICSE. Okay, so this category will also be available. So you can select that category and which language you prefer to learn in. So you can either go for English, Hindi, or English category. Okay, so that is basically the batches. Now go to the description of this video and click on the special class link. Then click on notify me to get notified 10 minutes before the class begins. Then you can also use my code VANIYT to unlock the free products. Okay, so to unlock the free products on Unacademy, so you can use this code, and also, so this is for unlocking. Okay, and also you can use the same code VaniYT, so for 10% discount on the subscription. Okay, all right then, so thank you everyone. So see you all in the next session. Okay, so subscribe to our channel, that is Unacademy ICSE and ISC boards. Click on bell icon to get notified about the session. Like and share the video. Download the Unacademy Learners app. So this PDF, if you need, so you can just send a message on the group. So that is Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10. So I can send the PDF there. So this is of Telegram. Okay, so this is of Telegram. So all you need to do is search. So Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10. So you can search. Okay, and join the Telegram channel there. All right. Okay then, so see you all in the next session. Any doubt, any of you? Okay, all right. Okay then, so see you all in the next session. So next session will be on tomorrow. I have a session for class 10, so will be on Wednesday. So Wednesday I'll take a session. Okay, all right then, so see you all. Take care. Thank you so much.